Okie dokie, artichoke. Welcome back to another episode of Full Steam Ahead. We have science, technology, engineering, art, and math crafts for kids. My name is Sam, and today, as the title says, we are going to be making our own geodes. Let me get nice and close so you can see what these look like. They are super cool. Here's one hanging from a ribbon, and here is the other one. Oh, aren't they so pretty and sparkly? Ooh, I love watching them glisten. All right, so we are going to be making our very own geodes today. I did mine on a big fat piece of ribbon, so I think I'm gonna hang them from the window in my office so that they get nice and shiny when the sun hits them. All right, so what materials do you need to make your very own sparkly, glistening geodes? What you will need is borax. You can get this in the laundry aisle of any grocery store. Some kind of scoop. It does not have to be a precise measurement. We'll get to that in a minute. Some very hot water, so I have mine in a French press, and I have kept the lid on to trap that heat, so parental supervision is recommended strongly for this craft. We're gonna need some sticks or something that you can use to suspend your ribbon from in the solution, and then something to stir your solution with. So at least 3 sticks if you're gonna be making 2 geodes. You will need some pipe cleaners, the fuzzier the better, and preferably in the color that you want your geode to be. Some scissors, some ribbon like I did, or some thick string or some twine, just something that you can suspend your geode from. And then some jars. I have glass jars. That's why I said very hot and not boiling water. You do not want to pour boiling water into glass, it'll crack. But if you have a Pyrex container, even better, so that way you don't have to worry about using hot and not boiling water. And some food coloring. It's preferable for you to use gel food coloring because the pigment is a lot stronger, but this works okay. Something clear to coat your geodes with, because otherwise these borax geodes will eventually dissolve if you don't coat them. So I have right here crystal clear acrylic coating. Make sure you use this outside, please. Or you can just coat your geodes in a layer of clear nail polish, and that will preserve them as well. And then go ahead and put on your apron or your lab coat, throw on some goggles. If you have very, very sensitive skin, you might want to put on a pair of gloves. Borax is safe to use once it is in its diluted form. Don't go drinking it, but it is safe to come in contact with your skin. Just make sure you wash your hands when you're done. But if you're touching it in the powdered form and you have sensitive skin, you might want to put on some gloves. All right, so let's get started with making our geodes for today. I'm just going to go ahead and put my samples front and center because they're just so pretty. All right. So, what do you need to do? Well, this one's really easy. So let's make 2 colors. Oh, and I wanted to show you what it looks like inside the jars that I made them in. Can you see how sparkly that is? I don't think you can. Oh, I wish you could see it. It's so beautiful. These come out really easily, by the way. You can just put some hot water in here and they'll dissolve and they'll go away. So you don't have to worry about ruining your beautiful ball jars. All right, so what we're gonna do is go ahead and set our 2 jars front and center, and in our very hot water, go ahead and lift off the lid. I've been keeping it warm by putting the lid on. There we go. We are going to dissolve the borax solution in our hot water. The hotter the better. And then when I said it doesn't matter what kind of measuring implement you have, this is why. So I tested out some different recipes, some that called for 3 tablespoons of borax per cup of water, some that called for 1/4 cup of borax per cup of water. And I found that instead of following a measurement, what you want to do is just keep adding borax until no more will dissolve, until it's so saturated with borax, until the water is so saturated with borax that no more will dissolve. And that is what's gonna get you the really pretty sparkly geodes. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna keep adding borax until I can see that the crystals aren't dissolving in the hot water anymore. So I'm gonna start with a 1/4 cup. And I have about 5 cups of water in here. You do not need that much water. You can do this with smaller jars. All you wanna make sure of is that your geode, which we'll get to in a second, is covered by water, or the thing that will help your geode form. You just want to make sure it's covered by water. So you don't need this much, but for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to use about 6 cups of water. So I just poured about a 1/4 cup of borax in my very hot water, and that has already dissolved, so I'm going to add another one, another about 1/4 cup scoop. Okay, dissolve this one. You could also just pour it directly from the box. That's fine too. You don't have to scoop it. I just, in my experience, kids really love measuring stuff out. So this is gonna be a nice way to get some of that fun experience in while we make our geodes. Another one. When I made my sample geodes, I believe I ended up having about a cup of water in, and it was the same amount, or a cup of borax in my water, and it was the same amount of water. So that should be, one more scoop should be enough until it stops dissolving. That one's fully dissolved. Let's do another scoop. And you can also make these huge. So if you have the option, I don't really have the option of using a burner on camera, but if you can do this directly on a burner, like maybe with a Bunsen burner, like one of their beakers, you could have the water be boiling when you start adding borax, and then you can saturate the water with even more of the borax and create a stronger borax solution. And if you do this like that, the whole process that I'll get into in a minute, you can create huge, I mean huge geodes, like the size of your palm. They look so cool. But we're just gonna avoid the stove because this is a craft for kids. So we're not gonna bring the stove into it this time. So our water is hot, but it's not boiling. But if you do it with boiling water, you can make huge geodes. So I have a cup of borax in there so far. It is still dissolving, so I'm gonna go ahead and add another 1/4 cup. Okay. All right, I can see little crystals floating around in there. I'm not sure any more is gonna dissolve. So I think 1 1/4 cups of borax, and I have reached full saturation. So now it's time to move on to step 2. Okay, so our next step is going to be creating a little geode starter with your, what are these called? Pipe cleaner. So I have a red one and a yellow one because I've already made a blue or purple, violet, and a green geode. So now I want to make red and yellow. So what you're going to do is you're just going to fold your pipe cleaner, or you can like fold it and wrap it around itself, or you can make a little spiral. I'm going to make a spiral this time because last time I wrapped it around itself, and I want to see if this creates a different shape than the other one. So go like that, and then I'm gonna do a little wrappy around it real quick so that it doesn't come apart. There we go. You don't want it to be too densely wrapped around itself because then the borax crystals won't have anything to form between. There won't be enough space. So leave a little bit of space. And then what we're gonna do is do the next one, so my yellow one as well. Get those out of the way. So here's my red one, now I'm gonna do my yellow one. Do a little spiral. Okay, now wrap it around just a little bit so it doesn't come undone. And then loosen it up a little bit. Leave a little bit of space between all the parts that are touching. Okay, perfect. So now we are gonna cut the material that we will be using to suspend our geodes while they form. So I'm just going to slice up some ribbon. You want it to be long enough that, come on, cut. You want it to be long enough that when you have your starter suspended in the jar, it doesn't touch the bottom. Or short enough, long enough that you can cover it easily with water, but short enough that it doesn't touch the bottom. So now that I've formed my little starter with a pipe cleaner, I'm just going to thread my ribbon through. And then before I tie the knot, I'm going to take the skewer that I'll be using to suspend it, and I'm going to go ahead and measure out how long I need my ribbon to be. So I'm going to drop it in my jar, and I need it to not be touching the bottom, but it needs to be low enough that it'll be fully submerged in the solution. So I'll leave it right about there and tie my knot right about there. Okay. And then I tie it a little bit shorter than I eyeballed so that I can be sure it won't touch the bottom. Perfect. Okay, so there's that one. Now I'm gonna do the other one with my red. And this is why I'm using so much water. You do not have to do it with 6 cups of water. You could do this with just 3 cups of water and use smaller jars so that you need a smaller volume of solution to cover your geodes. So let's drop this in there, see where we need it to be. Right about there is where I will tie my knot. Okay. Let's just double check it before I tighten it. Perfect. Okay, so we've got our little geode starters made of pipe cleaner hanging from ribbon and suspended by the skewers. What we're going to do now, I'm going to add a couple drops of food coloring, the corresponding color, to each of my jars. Let's say 5 or 6. If you're using gel food coloring, you're not going to need that much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 drops of yellow in the one that has my little yellow pipe cleaner. And there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops of red in the jar with my red pipe cleaner. Okay, now we're pretty much ready to rumble. Give that another stir, double check and see if there are still some crystals floating around, because if not, I might add a little more borax. I want these ones to be even bigger than the ones I made before. Nope, it has reached its saturation point. There are still crystals in there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna carefully pour my water in until it covers the pipe cleaner geode with a little extra room. And that looks good. All right, so that one's covered. Now let's do the red. And we're being careful because our water's really warm. We needed it to be hot so that the borax would dissolve. All right, and then because I like things to be even, I'm gonna even it out. Okay, so this one's gonna get a little more, and this one's gonna get a little more, and then this one's gonna get a little more. Okay, are they even? They look pretty even. Let's just leave it there. Okay, there's nothing left anyway. All right, so now, and this is a really important step, what you need to do is cover your jars with something. If you have a clipboard or like an old book and you don't mind if the cover gets a little bit warped from the moisture, or a piece of wood, or even just like some cloth towels, and then you could put like a coaster on top or something. You just want to trap the heat in there so that these cool very slowly, and then you're just going to leave them at room temperature overnight. You're not going to put them in the fridge or anything. You're not going to put them in the sun in a hot location. Just leave them on the table or on the kitchen counter, wherever you want, covered, and just don't touch them for 24 hours or overnight. And then tomorrow morning, when you get up, there will be geodes formed on the pipe cleaners in here. And what you can do is you can just lift them out of the solution and they will look like this, which I just think is so pretty. You can also reuse the leftover solution. Just reheat it and add more borax until you reach a saturation point again. Add more water as well. But this is still a viable solution. So you can create more and more and more and more geodes with the same water. Just keep adding a little bit more water and a little bit more borax and keep reheating it. And then tomorrow morning, once they've cooled and you've pulled out your beautiful geodes, what you're gonna wanna do is just coat them in a layer of, like I said, you can either use acrylic coating. This, I would do it outside and preferably with a mask on, or you can just coat them in a layer of nail polish, and that way they will stay forever and they're just so pretty. All right, so that is how you can grow your own geodes just using food coloring, pipe cleaners, water, and borax. So I hope that you learned something fun today and that you have a good time with the kiddos at home growing your own crystals. And I will see you next week for an art project, okay? Have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe and bye.